Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And I am thrilled to welcome you to an all-new Video Addict new release roundup. Now, frequent viewers of the show may see this as a little bit different format. My colleague Michael Vaughn, who I usually co-host this with, took a well-earned vacation this week, so I am rolling solo, so bear with me. I know you're used to two hosts, but to make up for this deficiency, I am going to try to offer you more titles to make up for it, to just kind of like buoy the experience for you to make it worth your while. So I am going to go through a ton of titles. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. You can see full reviews of all these titles on GeekVibesNation.com sometime probably over the next week or so. But I am so excited to delve into a wide range of titles that I'm very excited to show off, and I'm just going to dig right in. The first one, it's a banger, it's a classic. This is from the Criterion Collection. It is the new 4K Ultra HD release of The Princess Bride, which with this 4K release, they port over their storybook packaging that they did with the Blu-ray. Thankfully, I had never picked up the Blu-ray release previously, so getting to experience this new 4K presentation fresh. They had this, the original storybook here kind of like embedded into the packaging. You have the 4K disc and the Blu-ray disc as well that was previously released. This little bit that came out was the little bit of packaging on the back, the little J card that kind of inserted onto the packaging. Luckily, it's not inserted so much that it pulled anything off. This is pristine. Everything looks great. This, just for those who haven't seen the film, I think everyone pretty much has. It's a classic. It's a storybook, fairy tale. Peter Falk reading his grandson, the young Fred Savage, a tale of love and adventure and comedy, all this. So it's just a classic case of romantic love and adventure and stuff. And it has Carrie Elways, the introduction of Robin Wright, Andre the Giant, so many great people, so many quotable moments that every time you watch it, it never gets old. Directed by Rob Reiner, it's one of his finest. It's just such a great blend of all these different genres, and like they point out within the story that like the young boy played by Fred Savage, like he is very resistant to the story at first until he slowly gets so caught up in it that he doesn't want his grandfather to stop telling this story. And I don't need to explain this. It's a classic. Everyone loves it, and it shines on 4K. This is from the new 4K restoration. In Dolby Vision, it looks pristine. I love it has all the natural film grain. It all resolves very well. The natural colors are very nice and vibrant. They're very deep and nuanced. Comparing it to the Blu-ray that's included in here, I think it's a nice upgrade, especially with the Dolby Vision. But just like in terms of like, there's no nicks or scratches, anything like that. It looks really great. It has DTS 5.1 sound, which sounds really great. This does come with a archival audio commentary track with Rob Reiner and some of the cast members and the writer. This also has a piece in which Rob Reiner, he narrates the Princess Bride story that you can listen to. It also has an array of other featurettes that range from about 7 to 17 minutes long. Some of them are newer, like 2012 or so, like a reunion with some of the cast members. Then some are like even older, and they have all the archival, most of the archival special features from the original Princess Bride Blu-ray, which includes an archival making of special feature. So I don't think you're really losing much in this transition. I don't know, maybe there's like one or two features that didn't port over, but overall this is a very well-rounded package for a classic. I've heard some reports that some people have had issues with like pixelization or like freezing in some moments. I've read that on some of the forums. This played through perfectly with me, so your mileage may vary, but I have this is a flawless viewing experience. I really love this release from Criterion. They did a really nice job. I'm so glad to upgrade my ancient DVD. It really needed it. The next one is another 4K upgrade that it's completely different from Princess Bride. This is from our friends at Synapse Films. This is Dario Argento's Tenebrae, which I've reviewed some various Argento movies on the podcast and on the website. Suspiria, Deep Red, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, so many. But I had not seen this one yet. I know my colleague Michael Bond's a huge Argento fan, and he's always wanting me to get caught up with Argento as much as I can. So this is a big one crossed off my bucket list. As you can see, it's a little bit gnarly here, but it's a commentary on some of his earlier Giallo films. It's return after like kind of the Suspiria and some of his other films took him away from what he became most known for. He returned to the Giallo genre, but he did something really interesting with this, is which he's commenting kind of like, it's like a meta commentary on kind of his work within the Giallo genre, where there's a writer who has like written some kind of Giallo tales that have potentially inspired a killer to reenact some of the things that they have taken in this media. So you go on this investigation. There's a nice mixture of Italian actors and American actors, including John Saxon, who I really love, which ties into the fact that there's both an English and an Italian audio track, which if you take the English track, you can hear a lot of the English actors performing in their native language, which Italian sounds more necessary for an Argento movie, since he is Italian, and it kind of sounds kind of fitting. But the English track, it's also, I'm glad they have both options. But really great movie. I think this works really well within his Giallo kind of subgenre. Argento is one of the masters of it. He's one of the ones that does it best. And he does it so good in this one. This 4K comes from a 4K restoration in Dolby Vision. Looks very nice. I think all the elements were in really good shape. It has really nice color. I see some small kind of little source deficiencies, not with the encode here and there, but overall I think this is a very pleasing source, and this is definitely the best the film has ever looked. This is pretty much in line with his other Giallo films that were like released by like Arrow Video and stuff. And there's also Phenomenon, also released by Synapse Films. So this, like I said, it has the Italian and English tracks in DTS 2.0, 3 commentary tracks, a 90-minute documentary on Giallo, like kind of the Giallo genre, which really delves deep, which I really appreciate. This also includes various interviews that range from about 10 to 17 minutes. This is actually the standard version of a release that was released, I believe, last year, which was like a deluxe release, which I did not get to check out. But this has everything except there's a 3rd disc that was in that release that includes the Unsane cut, which is, I think, a little bit slightly re-edited and maybe edited down a little bit. From what I've read, people view it more as a curio, but if you want, like, if you're a completionist, you may want to track that down. It's very expensive and out of print now, but if you're a completionist, you probably already have it, but if you are interested, you need to track that down. But the standard version, it comes with a slip cover. I know there's some slip cover fiends. It's very nice, and it's a very well-rounded package with a ton of special features. You're just missing that one cut. So Argento fans, this is a very nice release, and I highly recommend you picking it up. Staying with our friends in Synapse Films is a newer film from 2019. This is Black Circle, which is a very interesting film, and I'll kind of show this off here. You get the Blu-ray and a soundtrack of the CD, which is pretty cool, and this comes with like a little card that tells the audio tracks here that I kind of folded right in here. So this, like I said, it's a 2019 film. It stars Christina Lemberg, who probably people know from a lot of exploitation films, including a Thriller, A Cruel Picture. I've talked about her in Made in Sweden, and she is obviously much older now, this being from a few years ago. This kind of involves 2 sisters who start to fall under the spell of this record that they find, that if you listen to it right before you go to bed, it kind of lulls you into a trance, and at first it makes their life a lot better, but then as soon as they like after a while they start experiencing something weird. And I'm not going to give everything away, but it kind of goes into some supernatural kind of doppelgangery area. All I want to say is it works really well for me. I think it's a really effective thriller. The ending really kind of reminded me of like Insidious, in which there's like kind of a realm that these people have to go into and to retrieve someone and try to like set things right. So it's like going into this weird realm of like kind of rituals and all of this kind of stuff. Not to say it ripped it off or anything, but it just kind of reminded me of it whenever I was watching it. Overall, pretty cool, like effective little thriller. This looks very nice and on Blu-ray. Sounds great. I believe this is a Swedish film. This does come in DTS 5.1 in the original language. This comes with a commentary track and a 58-minute interview with Christina Lindberg, who I mentioned earlier, a 9-minute making of, and also one of the director's short films is included. So overall, really nice package from Synapse Films. I think they did a really nice job with Black Circle. Another boutique release that I'm very excited about is from 88 Films. This is The Postman Fights Back from director Ronnie Yu, who I talked about recently because he is actually the director of The Bride of Chucky. He also did Freddy vs. Jason. But before he came over to America, he was doing some films in Hong Kong. So this is one of those earlier films. You can always count on 88 Films to have a poster and a reversible cover art. So I'll show off that reversible cover art and poster now. I'll just flip this over and show this off. So this has probably the most well-known person in this cast is Chow Yun-fat, but there's a lot of talented people in here. I don't want to rip this. So here's the reversible cover art here. And you can also see some of that on the fold-out poster here, which I do not really have a lot of wall space to distribute or to display this, but I'm glad that it is included for fans who do. You get both of these here. This is a cool little film involving the titular postman who gets teamed up with like a group of people to transport a package across the country, and along the way get kind of caught up in this grander scheme, and like there's like some villages that are like under attack, and while it may start off a little bit slow, it's like kind of leans more towards character development near the beginning, which I'm always a fan of, kind of getting to know these characters a little bit more and fleshing them out a little bit more. That makes the stuff in the latter half of the movie a lot more exciting as you're getting a lot of great fights and like kind of what maybe people are coming for this movie. It kind of starts a little bit slower, but it builds to a very nice finish that's kind of action-packed and has a lot of great elements, and all the performances are good, some good action scenes. Not like the absolute pinnacle of Hong Kong like martial arts cinema, but overall a very like really good tale. This from 88 Films is a very good Blu-ray release. Like I said, you can usually count on them. I'm starting out with a lot of heavy hitters. This comes from a new 2K scan of the 35mm negative. It looks very nice. There's still some little nicks and pops here and there, but overall a very good presentation. This does come in the original Hong Kong cut and the export cut for like international audiences, so you get a choice of which one you want to check out. So there is an English track as well. This comes with like Cantonese mono and English mono and a English 5.1 option as well. There are 2 commentary tracks and an array of interviews on this. So overall, a nice, well-rounded presentation for The Postman Fights Back from 88 Films. Make sure to order early if you want this nice slipcase, because you never know when they're going to run out. My next title, I think a lot of people are going to be very excited about this. This is from the collaboration of ETR Media and as a partner of the Vinegar label OCN Distribution. This is SEGA, The Complete History Volume 1 from Slopes Game Room. And this is really cool because people may have seen some of these Slopes Game Room videos on YouTube, And yes, you can find these on YouTube, but even this release, it says that these videos have been kind of re-edited and there's some newer footage in here and everything. So I think you get a little bit better quality than if you were just to fire these up on YouTube. And even if you didn't, I think this would be a really awesome release. This does come with the reversible cover art, which I'll show here. So this has 10 like documentary shorts, I guess you would call them, where the host, he goes through each, like, gives a brief kind of, not super brief, usually about 25 to maybe 40 minutes. There's like about 4.5, 5 hours of content just without the special features in here. So for 10 movies, or 10 documentaries, that's pretty good. Topics on this volume include Daytona USA, Outrun, Super Hang-On, House of the Dead, Afterburner, Space Harrier, Altered Beast, Streets of Rage, Seaman, Congo Bongo. A lot of great, like, interesting, like, I was a big SEGA fan when I was growing up, and this was like such a hit in the nostalgia center of my brain, where I was just like, I want to find an old SEGA and just play it. I was so excited. Some of these titles I'd never even heard of, but it's interesting to get that kind of context and history to some of these classic games, and kind of like there's some overlapping history between some of these projects, and you get to know a lot of the players in Japan and just how markets responded to certain things. It's very fascinating, and I loved watching every single one of these. I'm super glad. This is something I never would have expected to have on Blu-ray, but now that I have it, I'm so excited. And in terms of how this like looks, the footage looks very nice. I think like this was just made to be a well-produced YouTube video, but a YouTube video. But this looks really nice on Blu-ray. The sound quality is really nice. The narration is like actually the forefront element, but overall it sounds very nice. But in addition to just having the videos in a good quality, you get a commentary track on each of them from the host and like a guest commentary person, usually within the gaming world, or like kind of like the YouTube video world. You also get a host of special features, including additional videos about like different pockets of kind of additional videos that maybe don't focus too much on one specific thing. Like there's a video from like the people behind Sonic. They made like a pleasure seeker game or something, like I think that's what it's called. And just that's kind of like the weird games that maybe you would have never heard of, but just getting like a little bit of that, and kind of getting some other videos about kind of SEGA as like an industry leader and how they worked within America. Very fascinating stuff. A lot of stuff I did not know. There's like more additional videos, commentary tracks, other like kind of cool featurettes as well. So overall, if you're a SEGA fan, definitely pick this up, because it is such like a rush of dopamine for all your nostalgia wants and needs. And these are just very interesting topics, and it's just for the price that it is. It's not very expensive. I think it is definitely worth it. With this release and the next one I'm talking about, because they are partners of the OCN Distribution / Vinegar Syndrome. If you go to Vinegar Syndrome's website, if there's still some left, you can find really nice slipcovers of these. These are kind of the standard versions here. But if you want a nice slipcover, you can pay just like a slight upcharge and get a very nice thick slipcover, which I highly recommend if you're a fan. I'll link that in the description. My next one from that kind of partner label is with Deaf Crocodile, who I really love their work. I'm always very excited to see what gems they're going to expose me to. And this is a weird one, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. This is Visitors from the Arkana Galaxy. And the back kind of describes this probably better than I could have, which is the first line is, imagine if Troma Films had been hired to make a sitting Marty Krofft Saturday morning kids show, and you have some of the idea of the unspeakable strangeness of Visitors for the Arkana Galaxy. What this is it's about a writer who is like working on a novel. This is like a Czech movie, I believe, or no, it's a Croatian movie. My bad. So he's a writer who is like kind of struggling with his script. He's writing a space tale, and then he starts realizing what he is writing, it starts to come to be. So there's these visitors from the Arkana Galaxy, these kind of humanoid alien people who come into his life and kind of start worshiping him as a god, and it kind of just starts messing up his relationship with him and or him and his girlfriend, and just kind of his place on this little island of Croatia. And it's just kind of, it's a real weird one, like where, like I said, there's a description of like Sid and Marty Krofft, like there is like kind of a kind of kid-friendly quality to this, in which there's kind of like a little low rent, like little like you can kind of see kind of like their headgear, and like these little kids that are like dubbed with weird like adult voices and stuff, and it's kind of like a weird thought, like out of body experience almost, just watching this. But then there's also kind of like scenes where just like very much adult oriented, where like there's just like a group of people who are just like stripped down naked and just start like marching into a cave, and there's a woman who gets transformed into a tiny box, and it's just like a weird kind of slapsticky comedy stuff. It's very weird, but I enjoyed it quite a bit for kind of like this little oddity of like cinema that I never would have like learned about if it wasn't for someone like Deaf Crocodile rescuing this. So you can see the Blu-ray here. They have you can see the aliens even better here from the Arkana Galaxy. This is a really nice booklet. You can kind of see one of like the alien creatures, which I did not even get into right there. It's just like you can kind of see him better here. It's like a real monstrous alien entity that's wild to see in person. It has a really weird sense of humor that I really like. This is a really nice essay accompanying it. This doesn't have reversible cover art, but you can kind of see kind of the artwork underneath here. Just kind of a little bit of weirdness that you can kind of get a little bit of that here. As far as the Blu-ray is concerned, this looks very nice. This comes from a new scan and restoration from the people at Deaf Crocodile, who they always take a lot of care into restoring things. The one thing I do want to note, which I'm not a huge fan of, but for budgetary reasons, they could not include 2 different English subtitles, which I wish they would have. And the one that they went with are the English SDH subtitles, which I've kind of complained about on other releases, usually from like Epic Pictures or some other people who, usually whenever you're watching a movie not in the English language and you are in an English speaking country, usually you expect to get that title with an option that's just like straightforward subtitles, no descriptors or anything like that. That's not the case here, where you do get kind of, if you don't speak the language here, which I definitely do not, and I imagine a lot of people do not, you'll get the descriptors along with like sci-fi noise or like door creaks and stuff like that, which I'm not a huge fan of. I wish there was an option to just have straightforward English subtitles. I talked to the people at Deaf Crocodile. They said they did not have the budget to do 2 subtitles, and they want to be inclusive to hearing impaired people, which I certainly understand. And I'm glad that is available for people who are hearing impaired, who like maybe can get more enjoyment out of with the SDH subtitles. But for those who are just wanting a strict translation, it can be a little bit distracting. It's not a deal breaker, but I did want to mention it. I think audiovisual wise, it's a really nice release. Special features, they always do a really great job at Deaf Crocodile. So this has a commentary track. There are 5 animated shorts, which are really great, that range from 9 to 14 minutes. So you get a substantial amount of shorts. And also you get like the essay, like I told you, and overall really well considered Blu-ray release from Deaf Crocodile. I'm glad that they were able to release this. This is from 1981, and check it out if you like kind of a weird cinema, like kitschy cinema. It's really fun. My next title is an anime title from G Kids, put out through Shout Studios. This is Lonely Castle in the Mirror. And this is a pretty solid one. It's not like my favorite anime film discovery of the year, but it's really heartfelt. So this one is about it's basically kind of like an anti-bullying movie. It's about a young girl who's being bullied at school. She's afraid to like go back to school and keeps like kind of avoid going back. And at one point she finds like a portal in a mirror that kind of whisk her away to this kind of liminal space where she meets a group of six other people, because it's like a special, like seven's like the special number, like six other kids who also she comes to find are going through kind of a similar experience where they don't quite fit it in school, and they kind of like they are tasked by this girl in a wolf mask, which you can see her here, to play a game where if they find this certain item, they can grant a wish and have it come true. There comes some strings attached with that, which you'll learn as the plot goes along. I don't want to spoil that, but basically these while these people, all these kids are searching for this thing, they are learning more about each other, learning about their experiences, helping each other out. For this length, I think it goes on a little bit long. It's like an hour and 50-ish minutes, which I think is a little bit longer than this narrative needed. But overall, once you get to the end, I was starting to like feel my feelings. I was maybe starting to tear up a little bit. It did hit emotionally. It like sold it. I just think there was a little bit of time maybe in the middle where it felt it sagged a little bit. But overall, really like the character development. Really like the story overall. This is from the director Kalichi Hara, who did Colorful and Miss Hakusai, which I have the latter. I haven't watched it yet. This probably will inspire me to watch it finally. But overall, if you like anime films, Lonely Castle in the Mirror, if you like emotional ones, this hits in the emotions, and it's really nice animation. Maybe not to the level of like Studio Ghibli if you're more like a fair weather anime fan. This is just kind of stepping a little bit out of that comfort zone where you can always expect quality, but this one's still solid. This looks very nice on Blu-ray. Really great vivid colors, nice line work, no bleeding colors or anything like that. Overall, no compression artifacts. This comes with both English and Japanese audio options. This comes with an art gallery and a trailer. Nothing else beyond for that for special features, but overall for what that is, it's a good release. So G-Kids and Shout Studios did a nice job with this. Now I'm getting into a section, I'm going to call this kind of like my Sony corner, where all these titles that I'm about to talk about, until I tell you I'm done, are from Sony Pictures. Most of these are manufactured on demand releases. Not all of them are like new releases. They probably come out in the last few years or so, but I'm kind of giving them another spotlight. But what I want to say about these, and that you'll see as a recurring theme, so I don't have to repeat myself, Sony does a lot of their, they don't license out title for remastering or anything. They do all their kind of remastering in-house, but not all of these titles have been given a new, fresh master. So some of these are from dated transfers, which I'll note when I'm talking about them. So they may not look the best, but they are on Blu-ray if you want to check them out. And usually they're pretty solid releases, but some of them can just be a little iffy. But I'm glad to have these on Blu-ray because a lot of them are very interesting. I'm going to start with a pair of Heist movies back to back. My first one is one that I've been interested to check out since I was like a young teen, and I rented this and got like 10 minutes in, and then I was told that it was, maybe I was before teens, because I was told there was too many F words and we had to turn it off, and now I'm finally watching it. 3,000 Miles to Graceland with Kurt Russell and Kevin Costner. So overall, this is a pretty decent movie. It's a little underwhelming. It's kind of more so just a personal bucket list thing to finally watch this movie. It is like these Elvis impersonators, these two plus another couple members of the group. They rob a casino, and it's, while most heist movies build up to that, this kind of starts off with that right at the beginning within the first 20 minutes. And the rest of the movie is them kind of on the run and dealing with their own places, their own little individual storylines. Mainly Kurt Russell and kind of her new love interest, or his new love interest with Courtney Cox, kind of begrudgingly. It's kind of like a weird like deal between them where they kind of get all caught up in this whole bank robbery thing. Overall, pretty solid heist tale. I wish there was a little bit more levity to it than I kind of expected to be, since they were all dressed as Elvis impersonators. It kind of turns into more of a action thriller movie. But overall, I like these actors. If you like these actors, I think you'll think it's a good, not great time. So overall, light recommendation, not too heavy though. So this Blu-ray comes from a, like I said, ancient master. But it looks pretty nice, all things considered. This is more so middle of the road for Sony titles I'm going to be talking about. You see there's some softness here and there, some like a little bit of black crush and stuff. But overall, nice looking transfer, filmic. It hasn't been digitally like touched up too much. This only has a theatrical trailer. The sound is pretty solid, 5.1 sound. So not much effort put into it, but it's on Blu-ray. If you're a fan of the film, it's a pretty decent release. My next heist film's, it's even more serious than 3,000 Miles to Graceland. That's David Mamet's Heist, which, right in the title, Heist. Once again, really excited about this because of the cast. You got Gene Hackman, Delroy Lindo, Danny DeVito. You got Sam Rockwell in here. Once again, this is a really good heist film because just the mechanics of it, I think... because there's a heist right off at the beginning that kind of gets you settled into these characters and their dynamics and everything, and then it comes to like almost kind of like a one last heist type of thing where everything goes wrong. And if you Gene Hackman kind of plays the leader, and he gets wrapped up with this kind of young hothead played by Sam Rockwell that kind of like puts everything in jeopardy. My MVP of this is actually Delroy Lindo, who's like cool as hell. I love him in this movie, and I love kind of his relationship with Gene Hackman. Danny DeVito is really great in this because a lot of the recent Danny DeVito things that I've seen is mostly been comedic. He is like stone cold in this. He is so like menacing, and I like the juxtaposition of like his level of menace with like his height, because he's like this like little ball of anger, but like in a very menacing way, and it's great. Not all the plot elements I love, but overall it's really intricately crafted. David Mamet, he can get a little bit wild with his dialogue. Anyone who knows David Mamet knows David Mamet, but nothing too bad is said. I've seen a lot worse. See my review of Edmund. But overall, really cool heist flick. Once again, not a great transfer. It's an older master. You can definitely see its limitations. I wish it got, like, if this got a 4K release, I would definitely upgrade. I'd be very excited. This could use some work, could have used a refresh. Only includes a theatrical trailer, so yeah. Overall, decent release. I think the movie's worth it. I just wish that Sony would give this a 4K release sometime in the future. My next one's just like pure fun. It's kind of mindless, but it is fun. It is American Outlaws with Colin Farrell, Scott Conn, and Ollie Larder. This is a Western tale, but it's kind of more of a not so serious Western tale. It's kind of serious, but it's like these boys are coming home from war, and there's like the U.S. government kind of try to fuck over these landowners with eminent domain and like stealing land and like kind of forcing people off their land to get this railroad going. And this leads to kind of the boys putting up a fight and then having to go on the run away from like these menacing figures, and they start robbing banks, and then you soon learn that this is based on like Billy the Kid and kind of like his gang and everything. Colin Farrell's really good in the, like, he's been better recently, like when he's like Banshees of Inisherin or Killing of a Sacred Deer, anything like that, whenever he's like actually dramatic. But just like as a charismatic leading man, he does really nice. He's a good screen presence. The ensemble's fun. Really light direction. It's not like a substantial movie, but if you just want something rollicking and fun, American Outlaws, it certainly does the trick. Overall, while this is a dated master, it's one of the better looking ones. I think it looks very nice. It does retain the film grain, not too much in the way of compression artifacts. It sounds pretty good. This actually comes with a decent number of special features. There's a few featurettes, some deleted scenes, so you get a little bit of extra added bonus. So you can kind of see some of the featurettes here. It probably won't show up too well on the video, but there are some there. Overall, if you like kind of light Western, kind of like popcorn Westerns, this is good. It's not Magnificent Seven or anything like that, or Unforgiven, but American Outlaws, it kind of hits a spot if that's kind of what you're looking for. And kind of along that vein, even though this might be a little bit more geared towards the younger set, but not too much. I think it's like good for families. This is Wild America, which I was excited to check out because I do like the cast. It's just young teen heartthrobs. Got Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Devon Sawa, and Scott Bairstow. So this is about a trio of brothers who get a video camera, and they're kind of daredevils, and they're always like making the youngest brother, played by Jonathan Taylor Thomas, do daring things, and they're always videotaping it. And they get this idea that they want to go across the country to film nature, wild animals. Like, I want to see bears and hawks and all kinds of animals that can get right up close and like potentially even like maybe sell this like as a documentary one day. Begrudgingly, their parents allow them to do this. So it's basically these three boys going off on an adventure across America, getting into some perilous situations. It's not too complicated. It's pretty straightforward, but there's some fun sequences. I like the chemistry between the brothers. It's not like great acting, but it's like it gets the job done for what this film is. It's kind of nostalgic. It's like set in the 70s, I believe, and I think it's loosely based on real people. But overall, it's a fun adventure movie. It's good for families who aren't looking for strictly like just like Disney films or anything. It's just like a good, solid adventure. Maybe like slight cussing here and there, but overall, like, it's a PG movie, so it's fine. Overall, transfer, passable, not great. Could be better, but for getting this on Blu-ray, which we probably never would have. Another way, glad to have it. This it has a trailer, and that is it. Once again, victim of only having a trailer, but that's something, I guess. So yeah, looks decent. Pretty fun movie. Not fantastic, but just like if you like kind of good family fun, Wild America does a trick. Now I'm going to do a pair of documentaries, which I was very excited about. So one is kind of considered like kind of a documentary classic. It debuted at Sundance in the late 90s. This is an American movie. This one's a lot of fun. This is a movie about a man trying to make his dreams come true whenever he doesn't seem to really have the talent to make it happen. But I love those types of stories. So this is a man who he has dreams of making a horror movie. He's like, he thinks that he can do it, and he just needs to get like his family and friends on board. And every single time, he seems to run into obstacles that prove that his talent is probably on a limited basis. And probably the best interactions are with his cohort here, who's like a recovering drug addict who he's like, he loves to party and stuff, and like he has some of the funniest testimonials in this. It's great. There's also a lot with him trying to like borrow money from his uncle, and there's a lot of really great, just like heart-wrenching, like cringe-worthy more so moments with like this production and stuff. So just seeing a person who has such grand ideas but such limited like comparatively talent, like he's not talentless, but just like the way he's going about stuff, he's kind of delusional and kind of like almost borderline abusive at some points. I think it's just a really funny documentary, but there's also some emotional moments as well. And this was caught on 16mm, and this looks very nice. I think it's been it was probably given a restoration at some point before this was released, because it looks very nice for 16mm, which needs to be maintained pretty well. This comes with an audio commentary track with the director and cast. This comes with some deleted scenes and the theatrical trailer. So if you're a documentary fan, this is considered almost like an essential part of like any documentary fans like upbringing. So definitely check out American Movie. So funny, and it's just like it has just kind of a different vibe than we get a lot of, like a lot of documentaries like sleeker and stuff these days, but just kind of like this one just feels more authentic and it really resonates. But like while this may be a brand new documentary for my next one, that doesn't make it any less special. It's straightforward, but I liked it. This is also from Sony Pictures Classics. This is It Ain't Over, which is about Yogi Berra. This kind of starts with the conceit where the Yogi Berra's granddaughter was watching a like kind of a ceremony of like the 3 best living like baseball players and stuff, and she kind of got to thinking, why isn't her grandfather Yogi Berra in it? Like, and it's kind of an exploration of why he is not taken as seriously as some other ball players, despite his like momentous impact on the game. And it's such a great kind of exploration of him as a cultural figure, both as a baseball player, as a spokesperson, as kind of almost like a punchline with like the Yogi Bear show, like the animated show, and how that like took on some of his like tendencies and stuff. And this delves into his yogiisms, where he's like he's kind of attributed so many quotes to him that's kind of like philosophical, but like for layman's like put in layman's terms, that it's just kind of like they've like permeated the culture, like it ain't over till it's over or some and it's a great exploration of this man. I think it's really a well-rounded documentary. And any documentary fan, even if you're not a fan of baseball, I'm not like particularly huge on watching baseball all the time. I've been to a few games, but it's not my favorite sport. I love watching movies about baseball, and documentaries are no different. He's a charming man. I love all the testimonials about him. I love his own insights. I love like his love story with his wife. So touching. I love a good like epic love story. This is really nice. It looks great. Like I said, it's brand new, so there's no reason for it not to look great. Looks great, sounds great. A couple, like it has a featurette about like opening day with Yogi. There's some a theatrical trailer and stuff. So minimal special features, but some. So you get a little bit of extra footage and everything. So I like that. So It Ain't Over, the Yogi Bear documentary, really nice. My final Sony specific documentary is Only You, which is probably my best looking Blu-ray title. It is a romantic comedy with Marissa Tomei and Robert Downey Jr. I would say this is a good, not great rom-com. There's some elements with the plot that I did not quite gel with, but overall it's like kind of a light watch if that's what you're kind of looking for. There's way more like lighthearted rom-coms that I would go to before this one, but overall it does a trick, especially because I love Marissa Tomei. Basically what this one is she plays a girl who ever since she was a young girl, she got told by like a Ouija board that she would fall in love with this guy with a certain name. I'm gonna see Damon Bradley is what she says. She'll fall in love with a guy named Damon Bradley. So all of her life she's kind of like holding out on like actually pursuing a lot of romantic relationships until she can find this Damon Bradley who she thinks she's fated for. And she grows up, she is going to get married, but then out of the blue she hears about someone named Damon Bradley, and she sends her on a quest to Italy to find this man. And then she ends up with Robert Downey Jr. Now, whether he is actually Damon Bradley, I will not reveal. He's not. But how this kind of like, that's kind of revealed earlier on, and just kind of how this evolves and stuff. This would work for me if I think there was more chemistry between these two. The way they kind of like start their romance, it seems like we should be rooting for them more than I actually am. I like them, all right. It's better. He's better than her fiance that she's potentially getting, but otherwise, the romance wasn't really hitting with me. There's some charming moments, especially with her friend played by Bonnie Hunt, but overall, it doesn't quite land for me. It's decent, but this seems like one of the Sony titles where they was given a recent restoration. I do not know that specifically, but it looks very nice. It looks like it was given like a 2K or 4K restoration. Looks very nice, very filmic and everything. Looks great. Sounds great. No special features, but if you're a fan of this film, which I know a lot of people find it to be very charming, this is a very good presentation and it's worth picking up. Transitioning out of Sony to another documentary that I was very excited to check out because of the subject matter. This is from Uncorked Entertainment, and this is Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's The Fantastic Four, which I know, so this is on the Geek Vibes Nation the YouTube channel. So I know there's probably a lot of comic book fans, and I think this will be right up your alley. You might know a lot of this information, but just having it all kind of distilled into one documentary is a lot of fun. So Roger Corman in like the 90s, before we got like the 2000, like of course before like the Chris Evans Fantastic Four, like the other even much worse Fantastic Four. There's Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, and yes, this was shot and never released, and this is kind of going into why it wasn't released, kind of the background details of like why even make this movie if you weren't going to release it. And while a lot of hardcore fans probably know a lot of this, it's fun to hear from the cast members. I get pretty much all the cast members, including the man who played Dr. Doom. So you get like all these cast members here reflecting on the production, telling about how they viewed what was happening. You get interviews from Roger Corman, and a lot of like archival footage, all kind of put together. While it's not the most inventive documentary, I think it does a really nice job of kind of like distilling this all into like an easily digestible documentary. Very straightforward, very run-of-the-mill, but overall entertaining if you like the subject matter. So you may notice there's no Blu-ray logo, and this comes on, it's a manufactured on demand disc, so it's a burned disc. So for those who can't have a player that doesn't work well with burned disc, I want to mention that. But I'm glad to have this on Blu-ray in some form, and burned discs usually hold up fairly well. This looks nice for what this movie is. There's a lot of archival footage that kind of looks a little bit iffy, but overall it looks nice. Sounds good. This actually has a fair number of special features, as you'll see here. There's like a panel that's like from a convention that you get on here. So a panel discussion, several different interviews, outtakes from the documentary, various featurettes, unused footage from the actual Fantastic Four movie. Overall, a pretty well-rounded release, better than I was expecting. So if you want to learn more about this, Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, pretty solid release, not groundbreaking, but it does a solid job of this. Next title is a Vietnam war tale, Go Tell The Spartans, with Burt Lancaster. This is from MGM. It's a pretty sparse release from them. It's just kind of one of their bare bones efforts. This is basically a Vietnam era tale where it's about a soldier reckoning with receiving an order to like go into an area where he feels that they could do more harm than good in Vietnam, and maybe like even bring the Viet Cong into an area that has not had issues with this before. So it's kind of him reckoning with his like what he knows to be right, and whether or not he should follow orders. This plays out in a pretty interesting way. Pretty solid war feature. Not one of like the all-time best, but if you like kind of like old like 60s war pictures, I think this is a pretty solid one. This Blu-ray, there's not been any restoration or anything done to this. I think it's a decent video quality and audio quality, but not great. It's passable, but I've seen a lot better. It's just older master on a disc, no special features. So if you're a Burt Lancaster fan, it's worth it, but it's not like a bells and whistle type release. Similarly, from MGM is the release of a film noir, The Big Knife, with Jack Palance, and Rod Steiger, Shirley Winters. So yeah, this is a film noir about Jack Palance. He plays an aging movie star who has a secret. He's wanting to kind of get out of the film business, but his agent is kind of forcing him into staying in by blackmailing him, and it becomes like a web of like lies and deceit and murder and everything. It's There are better tales set in like the seedy underbelly of Hollywood, but if you like these actors, I think it's a pretty fairly compelling noir. Um, if you're a hardcore noir fan, check it out. If you are dipping your toes more into the genre, there are definitely more fan favorites, so you should check out first. But this master, it once again pretty decent. Some nicks and scratches definitely remain. This hasn't been like restored or anything. No special features, so very bare bones. But if you're a noir fan, check it out. It's not special, but it's okay. Bringing us back into more of a modern era, in television, I have The Walking Dead: Dead City Season 1. And this picks up several years after the finale of the Mothership series. This is a spinoff featuring Maggie and Negan, in which they are kind of unfortunately kind of erasing a lot of what the last season, like their character development, and kind of like returning them back into more of a tentative like allyship that's uneasy because of like past trauma and everything. But I ultimately like what this series does, even though they kind of rehash some of those elements, because it is Maggie going to her son has been kidnapped, and they're going into Manhattan, which has kind of been like a whole kind of city that's been cut off from the rest of the world. So you kind of get to see what this society that's been like cut off from everyone else is doing after all these years, and you get like a crazy great villain by the character actor Zelko Ivnik, who's always just so deliciously evil. You get some other great character actors. If you love these characters of Maggie and Negan, I think you'll appreciate this. If you kind of found like the later years of these various Walking Dead shows to be a bit of a slog, I don't think this will convert you, but overall, I really like kind of the world. I like that they are focusing more on these two within this and not having to service like 20 characters like the Mothership series had to do sometimes. This is kind of more focused, and you do get to meet some cool new characters, but overall it does some nice character development with these two specifically, and you visit a new area that you haven't really explored as much in the other series. New York. So urban New York, it's fun. Overall, I really like it. It's a good 6-episode series. This includes the 2023 WonderCon panel in terms of special features. Other than that, nothing in the way of special features, but that's a good panel. And this looks good and sounds good. So if you're a Walking Dead fan, this will treat you well. If you're kind of tired of the series, I don't think it'll convert you, but it's a pretty solid release. Moving on to my next one from the Milestone Cinemas. This is Piccadilly with Anna May Wong, which is interesting that there's an Anna May Wong collection that we talked about a few months ago, and they are advertising her forefront of this release. In the actual title sequences of this, she is like kind of like very small build, but Anna May Wong, she is the star of this, which is good because this takes place at kind of like a cabaret-esque club. And she is just like a simple kitchen girl who gets discovered and kind of plucked out of obscurity to replace like an aging kind of singer. And there's all that tension there. Kind of like All About Eve-ish, but not quite like that direct path. But yes, this young girl being thrust into sudden fame, and kind of how that kind of like rocks this whole like little entertainment community and everything. Anna May Wong is transcendent. She lights up the film. This is a silent film, so it's just a lot of facial expressions, but she's so evocative and everything. It's a really good performance. I really like this, and this presentation is really nice. This comes from a new restoration. It's been remastered by the BFI. This comes with a commentary track and several different featurettes. So if you're a silent era film or Anna May Wong fan, definitely check out Piccadilly. I think it's one of the better narratives I've seen from her. Definitely a fan. My last stretch of titles. And yes, I know I've covered a lot. I've been trying to give you a bang for your buck. I have a few more titles. Like I have my Sony section. Now I'm going to my Universal manufactured on demand section. These are not burned disc, but they are kind of printed in limited batches. And once again, like Sony, most of these are not new transfers, so they're going to take a little bit of a dive in quality. But some of these we would not otherwise have on Blu-ray, so I'm glad to have them. So my first release is it's a heart tugger. This is How to Make an American Quilt with Winona Ryder, Ellen Burstyn, Anne Bancroft, Kate Nelligan, Alfred Woodard. A lot of great people in here. This is about a young writer played by Winona Ryder, who kind of escapes from like a potential engagement to kind of like go to her grandmother's house, who she spent like time with as a girl. And she like gets embedded in her group of friends and starts to try to sort out her life while writing, like trying to craft a story around like their kind of little quilting community. And through them you get to learn about each of these characters, like backgrounds and what they went through when they were younger. So if you ever seen something like Fried Green Tomatoes or Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood, this will be right up your alley. This is a really emotional film. It's nostalgic. It's just great actresses, like female driven, just communing with one another, talking with one another, really delving deep into like really thematic territory. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a really great movie, and overall, this is a pretty decent release. I wish it was better. I wish this could get remastered, but it's okay. The audio's a little inconsistent. Video could be better, but overall, I'm glad to have this on Blu-ray. There's no special features really to speak of. It's just like, if you want this movie in high definition, it is here. If it gets a Blu-ray upgrade, like a remastered and sometime in the future, I'll definitely pick it up. But until then, I'm glad to have it. My next title, for people who are longtime fans of this show, this will be very familiar to you. This is Little Miss Marker. This is the 1980s version. I believe it is 1980. So people who've watched this show a lot, this is the third time I've talked about this story this year. The first time was Sorrowful Jones with Bob Hope, which was from the 40s. Then I went back to the 30s and did the Shirley Temple version, which was the original Little Miss Marker. Now we're back. Now we're into the 80s, talking about this story with Walter Matthau and Julie Andrews, which I love both of them, especially Julie Andrews. For those who have not been on with me on this journey, this is about a bookie who takes a marker, like a placeholder for a bet, in the form of this young girl who's left by her father, who does not come back. And it's just about how this man who's kind of hardened to the world, it starts to kind of soften up with this young girl around him, and he's trying to figure out what he needs to do with her. He starts kind of having paternalistic feelings for her, but then like the law's kind of closing in around him, and there's like all this gangstery stuff happening. Julie Andrews is in the picture. That's one of the major benefits I like about this particular version, is they give her, the female role, a little bit more like things to do and a little bit more agency overall. I still don't completely, especially in this one, buy the romance between these two that kind of eventually develops. But I like that she is kind of given more than just kind of like a burlesque dancer like side role to this. Overall, I think this is just at its core a very charming story. This might be my favorite version, either this or the Bob Hope version, because that also had Lucille Ball, who I love. So depending on what you want, I think things aged a little bit better here, but it's still 1980, so there's some dated elements. But overall, it's just a charming story. I think this is a really decent, like, good looking release, I'll say. This looks better than a lot of my other Universal titles. Nice film grain, no egregious nicks or scratches, sounds decent, no real special features. Overall, I recommend it, especially if you're a Julie Andrews fan or a Walter Matthau. It's charming. It's just, if you like cute kid movies, it's a good one. My next one is a tearjerker. It's One True Thing, which earned star Meryl Streep a Best Actress nomination the year it came out. So this is about a reporter, a writer, who played by Renee Zellweger, who goes back home whenever her mom is diagnosed with cancer, and beginning of the movie, she kind of like admires her dad and kind of really loves him, played by William Hurt. And he's just kind of like a respected literary figure. But then as she comes back home and starts to see him through adult eyes, she has to start reckoning with like what her image is of her father and how it kind of conflicts what she knows about him. So overall, it's a rocky family drama. Meryl does a great job. All the actors do a really good job. Some of the plot points don't quite hit as effectively as I want them to, but overall it's a decent movie. It'll get you feeling stuff at various times. Especially there's a really great kind of scene between Meryl Streep and Renee Zellweger talking about kind of like their places in life and regrets and everything. That's my favorite scene by far in the movie. But this is a tearjerker, not quite in the way that I want it to be, but overall decent movie. The audio-visual could be better. Once again, definitely lacking, but overall decent. This has a very brief 10-minute featurette, like a archival, like kind of like seen on HBO featurette called Spotlight on Location. Just a little bit of like interviews with the actors and stuff. So, One True Thing from Universal. Coming back to a more modern movie from the late 2000s. This is Sin Nombre. From Carrie Joy Fukunaga, who helped establish True Detective, and he did the latest James Bond movies. No Time to Die. Yeah. So this is kind of his Spanish language, like Mexican drama. Deals with like Mexican gangs and like kind of like initiations into gang life and how it impacts different people, especially when one of the gang members refuses to go along with like a specific killing, and how they have to go on the run and everything, and how he kind of entangles with this other family who's trying to make their way across the border from Mexico to the U.S. It's very harrowing, very intense. Overall, very good though. It's like really exploring toxic masculinity and how the gang life kind of just permeates his culture and just kind of sucks these youths in from a young age and kind of gives them a place to be that like garners them loyalty that's kind of misplaced and all this kind of like dynamics. It's a very solid movie. Really enjoyed it, even though it's a tough watch at times, but overall a very solid movie. Since this is a newer movie, it looks really nice. Spanish language, English subtitles. There's like audio commentary from Cary Fukunaga and producer Amy Kaufman, and some deleted scenes. Overall, pretty solid release. My final movie, if you can believe it, is one that I was excited to watch because I recently revisited Matilda, so I was in a Mara Wilson mood, so I wanted to check out A Simple Wish again, which is one of her follow-ups to Matilda, trying to conjure that magic. It did not quite hit as well as Matilda, which is a Stone Cold classic. This is decent for a kids movie, but it's definitely kind of a disappointment, especially when you're hoping it's going to be somewhere in the realm of Matilda. Martin Short plays a fairy godmother who is like a bit out of his depth. He's kind of a doofus. He kind of gets paired up with her, who is trying to get her dad to land this important role in this play, and things go awry whenever like wands get broken and people get turned to stone, and there's like this evil witch right here, who played by Kathleen Turner. Overall, if you're a kids film fan, this is passable, but it's definitely one of the weaker ones. It's just kind of like you'll probably forget about it soon after you finish watching it. I wish it was better. Mara Wilson's other movies like Miracle on 34th Street or Mrs. Doubtfire, those are classics. This one of her weaker ones. But if you like Martin Short, he's doing his best. He's like, there's like one very inventive scene in which they kind of get transported into like the Midwest, and there's like a man who turns into a giant rabbi that's like kind of Godzilla style, starts stomping on things. That's like the best scene of the movie. Everything else, it lacks kind of that inventiveness. But overall, it's fine. And this transfer, not great. It's very processed, doesn't really look good. Sound is okay, it's better than the video, but it has a very processed look. It needs a remaster. This does include a trailer, nothing really else, but it's on Blu-ray if you want it. So I wish I hadn't ended on that downer, but overall, really varied releases. All of them have something to offer, I would say, depending on what you're looking for. But I wanted to give you a pretty well-rounded journey, so I hope you felt that it was worth it. I hope you didn't get too bored with it being just a solo endeavor where I'm not really bouncing off someone like my colleague Michael Bond, like I do usually. If you do miss that dynamic, they will be here next week. I will be excited for their return. But I appreciate you watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if I talked about anything that you are excited to check out. Make sure to share this with people, anyone that you think might enjoy a home entertainment-based YouTube video. Overall, I appreciate you spending time with me. Be sure to subscribe to the GVN YouTube channel. But until I see you next week, enjoy these movies.